I'd like to welcome everybody here to our weird Wednesday unusual opening stream. William Paschall here, streaming from Budapest, Hungary. We are playing unusual openings, gambits, fun stuff we wouldn't normally play. We try to keep it on the sound side, so nothing like totally wild and insane and just garbage openings. Just really, as standard stuff as maybe like the Dutch defense is for me, I would consider to be viable for the weird opening stream. Stuff that's kind of risky but I wouldn't normally play, and other fun gambit openings. So that's what we're doing for Weird Wednesday. I'd like to welcome everybody to the stream. We are doing our last stream before we're going to a tournament in Harkheim, Hungary tomorrow morning. We've got a number of players here already. Stream is up. Hunt the King, Mule Skinner, and FIDE Master Strength, who we haven't seen in a week or so. Good to see you, FIDE Master Strength. And you guys? Mule Skinner here almost every day. Hunt the King wasn't around. I actually played an informal game with him yesterday. So we're going to get started, guys. Don't let me forget to play unusual openings here. Sometimes I forget that that's the purpose of the stream. And you guys try to play something interesting if you get a chance, and don't select colors. Okay, so if you do challenge me to a random color, because we got trolled by you guys once. That was very funny. Right, to play white every single game, but I want to be able to play black too. So let's try to make it random colors. Anyway, welcome to the stream. We will refresh the stream here to get the chats, because I think sometimes Twitch needs to be occasionally refreshed. But it looks like it's up, it's running. We've got video, audio. I'm going to challenge, accept the challenge from Hunt the King. Actually, one suggestion for lichess would be, like, for those challenges that are color oriented, like we should send a message to Ornikar. I mean, when you do get an incoming challenge where someone has challenged you to, like, just playing black or just playing white, it should notify you of that. You know what I mean? Because we get challenges and you don't know if it's like that person has just challenged you to white or black. I know it's fun, but alright, so Hunt the King, we're going to play black here. This was apparently a random color challenge, though we'll never know, will we? Alright, so Hunt the King, he's running pretty bad against me. He has played some tough games, and he's not a bad player. Alright, so Hunt the King, you're up, man. I've got to try to play something interesting and wacky and weird here. Hunt the King, hello. Good to see you in the chat there. FM Strength, why are you withdrawing your challenge? FM Strength, because you challenged me to a certain color or something? Did you challenge me to just play white, or you have to go? Alright, so Hunt the King played c4. This is tough, a little tough for me to find an unusual opening against c4. Let's see what we can do. Alright, c4, e5, reverse English. FM Strength, why do you want to remove your challenge? Guitar player, the original guitar player, is back. Inacuo, we had another guitar player on the stream who I don't think is related. So knight c3 now. The problem is, actually the other day I thought about, why can't you do like the wing gambit against the English? Well, I guess you could, right? But in this position it's not possible because the knight takes b5. I mean, even that is possible, actually. It's interesting. I can't imagine it's remotely enough compensation for black. So I was thinking either, we've played bishop b4 quite a bit on the stream. It's hardly an unusual line anymore. So I'm going to go with f5 here. Kind of reverse Grand Prix attack. There was another guitar player, but not a bra. There has been another guitar player on the stream, but he's much weaker than you, and a different style altogether. So it was pretty obvious from from the beginning that it wasn't the original guitar player, bro. All right, so f5. I don't know what else to do, guys, to get a weird opening. The only way I could play a really legitimate weird gambit, kind of unusual opening against the English would be if he would cooperate. We could play a little hope chess here. Instead of f5, I could play knight f6. Hope to get like a knight f6, knight f3, and then play b5, which is an interesting, not b5 right away, sorry, e4, knight g5, and b5, which is, if you guys understand what I'm talking about. But I have no guarantees that Hunt the King is going to play knight f3 on that move, and if he doesn't, I wouldn't really know how to get into an unusual type of setup. So anyway, we're playing f5 pretty early. That's the best I could do here against the English opening, other than just gambiting my b5 pawn altogether. b5, knight takes b5, yes, oh no, my pants, that's right, I thought about it. That's the only way to go. I mean, we can play it like exactly. We can play it like one of those wing gambits, a tempo behind, you know, with colors reversed. Yeah, I thought about it. I almost did it, but it was a little. It looks a little too irresponsible, like to be even a legitimate opening. I mean, I have skepticism toward like the normal kind of lines like that with white, but I imagine like a tempo down, it's really trash. So I want to try to keep it within the realm of legitimate openings here, semi-legitimate openings. So d4. Reverse Grand Prix attack. This is a quiet setup for white, you know, with e3, so it shouldn't be really dangerous for me. You don't want to give up the center here. So I guess I don't have any choices other than closing it up with e4 and knight c6. You could play d6, I guess, and be willing to play that ending. Yeah, I agree with Pants that definitely came to mind, and I think that was an alternative, but a little bit over the top. The b5 right away. Deju, are you FIDE titled? Can you please say some beginner's hints about Sicilian defense? Well, guys, you'll have to forgive me if I cough or if I sneeze or something. I've got a little bit of a cold, unfortunately. First time in a while, but just in time for my tournament starting tomorrow. So I'm really, really happy about it. Oh no, my pants. I didn't know they were going to giving out that. Okay. Yeah, so Sicilian defense hints. Well, beginner's hints. This is a very very general concept. We have here an English opening, which is essentially the same thing as the Sicilian defense with colors reversed. You have to keep in mind that the Sicilian defense or English opening, as we see here, reverse Sicilian. This is reverse Sicilian. It's a very hyper modern opening, which means you're not playing classically. You're not establishing a pawn in the center right away. So you have to really try to undermine the opponent's center to attack the center pawn. Usually, when you're playing the Sicilian defense, a lot of your counterplay is going to be focusing on attacking their pawn on e4. Okay, so if you're black, they play e4, you play c5. You want to try to eventually put pressure on that e4 pawn. The same would apply for white. He would like to attack my e5 pawn. He's got nothing on my e5 pawn here. The fact that he has no pressure on this e5 pawn, that's good for me. That's my strong point in the center. So you guys are going to hear me coughing and sneezing here a little bit. Just don't worry. Don't send any medical assistance. It's a very mild cold, but hopefully it won't affect my tournament starting tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Deju said I look ill. I hope not. Get some rest. I just woke up. I just woke up. I look more tanned than usual. It's just the light. No, I'm not. I'm just a very, very mild cold. I'm concerned it would get worse. I'm not concerned about it now. But I haven't been sick all year, basically, so it's kind of amazing timing that I play like 2 tournaments a year and I get sick the day before I leave for one. But the other day I was commenting on stream that I was like, oh man, it must be the dust or the cold air, but I think it was already setting in. But it's good that I'll have a week to rest from streaming, because talking constantly definitely doesn't help. Alright, so Hunt the King. So you know what we have here is kind of King's Indian type position now. And White again has no pressure on the center. Again, we asked for Sicilian hint. Put pressure on the e4 pawn if you're black. And White plays e4, you play the Sicilian, you want to put pressure on the e4 pawn. Also important in the Sicilian, after e4, c5, vital is the d5 square as well. So e4 and d5, those arguably the most important squares. And that would mean these squares would be very important. So this is more of a King's Indian now. This whole position has transformed from pre-moving enabled. But this e3, not a very useful move. I mean, he probably will have to play e4. Did I just move his pawn for him? That's so strange. I like went and clicked and it moved there. Good idea. Yeah, I think that's a tempo, your extra tempo you invested in a useful way there. It looks like a, what do you call it, dunst opening with colors reversed? Or King's Indian. I guess it's weird enough to qualify for Weird Wednesday. FM Strength, you're coming to Budapest soon. If I see you on the street, I'll shake your hand. Oh, awesome, man. I'm going to be away for a week. So how soon are you going to be in Budapest? So out of curiosity, in this position, aiming, instead of knight e7, why not knight b8? You can play knight b8. You can play knight b8 as well. It's probably slightly less common. I don't really want to see knight g5 here. Though I'm a little bit slow in this position. I'm not sure if this is this is 100% safe. Do I have time for h6? Yeah, guitar player, it's definitely okay to play knight b8. Like also in the dunst opening, like when you play e4, d5, knight c3, d4, you can play either knight e2 or knight b1. I mean, I have definitely faced both. So knight e2 or knight e7, it's usually a little more common, but it is possible to play knight b8, such positions. What about this bishop on f8? Am I supposed to close this up with f4? I guess since he closed the king side, since he's castled here, since he's castled, I suppose that closing it up is okay. It's not my favorite strategy. A lot of people love to play these Mar del Plata type race positions in the King's Indian. I'm not a big fan. I like to have more like control of what's going on, and I feel like when you play these King's Indian and Mar del Plata type positions, like classical King's Indians, where you close it up with f4 and you know, it feels like the game controls, you know, itself. It doesn't feel like you're playing chess to me. It just feels like, you know, the game is playing and you're just watching this like video game or something. So I like King's Indian with more fluidity and not closing it up so much. But here I'm a little bit behind in development, and I don't really like my bishop on g7, to be perfectly honest. So I think this bishop on f8, we might be able to play, you know, in the classical Mar del Plata King's Indian, the bishop often goes back to f8 to secure d6. We could actually profit here from not have ever moving. Yeah, that's a new grammatical approach, but not having ever moved this bishop on f8 could be beneficial for me. It can defend d6, it can go to like e7 and d8 eventually, pop out there on b6. Believe me, it happens. Queen e4 check. Interesting move. So I'm all about the king f7 here, probably. You can play bishop d7 or knight d7, I guess. The argument for bishop d7 is that it develops a piece with tempo. It's not a great square, typically, in a King's Indian, though. But yeah, maybe we can try it. He's going to hit my b7 pawn, and I'm going to end up having to react to that anyway. So this weakens the queen side pretty much. It's very possible king f7 was better than bishop d7. This game is probably going to be decided by a totally random time scramble. The other thing is that my knight could benefit, you know, from using the d7 square going to c5. So the bishop, I don't almost ever put the bishop on d7 in any kind of closed King's Indian classical. It's better on c8 usually than it is on d7. Random question, since you're relatively close. Do you happen to know if there are on occasion chess events in Romania? Of course. I haven't played a lot in Romania. On a few occasions. I wish I did, though. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tournaments, I suppose, in Romania. Probably more than Hungary. I don't know. Maybe not. But there's quite a lot of chess in Romania. Quite a lot of strong players. I know, like, Timișoara is very close to the Hungarian border. There is a lot of chess in that city, pretty much anyway. You know, obviously Bucharest would be the most, probably. Okay, queen c2. Romania. Should we try to hold up the queen side here with a5 now? It's a tough call. I mean, I don't know if there's more chess in Romania or Hungary. I haven't played in Romania in a while. It's been quite a few years, but there's an awful lot of good players from Romania. And like, if you look at the European Club Cup, they actually fielded 2 teams. If you take that into consideration, Hungary fielded 0 teams for the European Club Cup. Romania 2. So that tells you something. Hunt the king is close to losing on time. h3. Well, we can freeze him on the queen side and make progress on the king side. We're in good shape. It's a little weird to play rook hg8. Now he's running away, which totally makes sense. I really want to get my knight to c5 here. Well, he retreated there. I think that was unnecessary. You're actually on g5, and it wasn't that easy for me to enforce this advance. So, hunt the king. You didn't have to play knight h2. Yeah, now it's okay. Well, it was decided by time. I don't like this on the queen side. You know, a3. You should play b3. I had a game the other day where my opponent did the same thing. You lose all flexibility on the queen side with that. You never want to do that. You'll have to play like b3 to stop me from playing a4. Keep your keep your pawns flexible. You're looking to move to Romania. So, yeah, I mean, I've considered moving to Romania a lot because I have connection with Romania, and there was a long time when I was playing online poker here in Hungary where it looked like the government might, at any moment, over the last 7 years, Hungarian government constantly threatened to stop online poker. So I was pretty much prepared to move to Romania to play online poker at any point. Had the Hungarian government gone through with it and stopped online poker. So that would have been my choice. I was definitely prepared to do that. Never had to do it, but I would gladly move to Romania. I've been there many times. It's a great country. Okay, Mule Skinner, guitar player, Innocuo, Ghost Mine, Constant Change, Etatsuar. That's a correspondence challenge. Okay, let's go. Next game, Weird Wednesday. Mule Skinner's up. Alright, he's white, and we're going to try to play something interesting. Now, we've played the Scandinavian against him routinely to try to get an open position, but today we need to try something different. So, what can we do? Alekhine's defense. Alekhine. I'm not good at pronouncing Alekhine in the Russian way. Although I did study Russian for 4 semesters or 3 semesters at university, I did not excel. So my Russian pronunciations are pretty bad. E5, knight to d5. And Mule Skinner likes closed games. But lately he's played the Benko a couple times against me, so I might be mislabeling him. I don't know. If you play the Benko, you're probably not that unhappy in open, more semi-open positions. Benko is semi-open, I would say. So d4, d6. Very rare to see any move other than d6 here. Alekhine's defense, I have played without great results on occasion. This position now, mostly bishop g4 and g6 are the moves. You occasionally see c6, and my adopted countryman and former teammate Vargazoli plays a lot of knight b6. I guess with knight b6, you're kind of taking white a little bit out of book and creating an original situation. It's an interesting move. I'm not sure if it's objectively good. I don't know the theory of that too well. Vasham. Welcome, guys. This is my last stream, guys, so you know, guys and girls. My last stream, not forever, but for a week. I'm going away to play a small open in Harkine, Hungary, and I will be back next Friday. So I'll actually be back Thursday night, a week from today, but I'll be streaming next Friday. I'll update it in the stream. All right, so knight b6. So it's like a delayed exchange variation. We occasionally even see queen takes d6 in this kind of position because we have a check on e6. But I'm not really sure objectively it's a great move. Queen takes d6. You could simply play bishop e2, threatening c5, and then I'd have to find something original, I guess. So c takes d or e takes d. E takes d usually safer. This will transpose to some kind of pretty standard exchange variation, I guess. In the exchange variation, white's normally taking on d6 earlier. C takes d was the kind of standard idea, but e takes d is proven to be a lot more solid for black. Speaking of adopted countrymen, thinking of people who play the Alekhines defense on a regular basis, the Hungarian GM Ferenc Berkes continues to play Alekhines defense on a regular basis. Not a lot of players, feature it in, over 2,600 players I'm talking about. There you really can't find that many 2,600 GMs who play this opening on a regular basis. But Berkes is one of them. What's that? Do you guys think of the Bomb Cloud opening, e4, e5, king e2? Yeah, that's all funny, and it's like the pork chop, f3, king f2. F3, king f2, h4. That's pork chop opening. But I don't want to play like really silly stuff, We'll save that for a silly stream, but maybe on April Fool's Day we'll have some kind of really absurd opening stream. This is just weird opening, so we're trying to play stuff we wouldn't normally play. Solid openings. Now typically this knight would often go to c6 early, and then like bishop f6, knight bounces back to e7 in some types of positions, where I've played like d5 and white has played c5. I guess knight c6 is probably the main move here. The idea being that if d5, bishop takes f3, and white has a certain amount of weaknesses on the dark squares. Also, the c4 pawn becomes weak. But there are other ways for black to play. I mean, you could play c6, I guess. The pieces are a little hard to get out in that type of position. b3 now. It's probably main line for this rare exchange variation. Not really a main line, but this is probably best move in this position. Bishop f6. I guess bishop f6 here. You guys may or may not know that I always used to play a lot of Scandinavian with d5. And I think that there's certain openings that have kind of distant relations to each other. Alekhines defense, Peart's defense, and the Scandinavian are all kind of in the same category of what to say, like hypermodernism. Level of hypermodernism is probably about the same. He's still not threatening d5. This is an important thing to keep an eye on, whether white can play d5. I am a little concerned about knight e4 here. So rook e8. Rook e8, or maybe d5 right away. d5 right away. Let's see. d5 right away looks okay, actually. Maybe this is solid. You just never want like white to get in d5 in a favorable circumstance. I guess his next move would be rook c1. I was thinking about rook e8, rook c1, and then d5. But I was a little bit concerned that maybe the rook has some play along the file. And the other thing is, in some variations, he'll take twice on d5 and play like bishop c4 and maybe have some pressure on f7. But I have the feeling that I'm seeing a lot of ghosts here. You thought Peter Leko had it in him to match up to the caliber of the Super GMs. Peter Leko played a match for the World Championship, man, but then he, like, I don't know, got married and became a different person or something. I don't know. It's kind of like Gata Kamsky. He also played a match for the World Championship. He was in the top 3 or 4 in the world. And then, life moves on and other things happen. And Shirov too. So it's not easy to stay at the super elite level. D takes c4. B takes c4. Bishop takes f3. It looks like it should equalize. We could try other moves, I guess. But actually, this is probably nearly winning a pawn. Or am I talking about like equalizing? He may have some compensation. Tough call now. Knight takes c4, allowing bishop takes c6 to smash my pawns. Or do I just win this pawn on d4 in exchange for the pawn on b7? Knight takes d4. Complicated, isn't it? Knight takes d4, bishop takes b7, and then rook b8, bishop d5. It's about equal. I think I'm better off taking a c4 pawn. This is actually perhaps a little safer. But I think that white has a little bit of compensation, so I'm not sure that I'm just winning a clear pawn. It's probably about equal. I don't know if I have anything better than equalizing. I mean, there's so many good players you could point to who, I mean, Shirov, I think what happens is life catches up with you. You have other responsibilities, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, personal things in your life happen, like people die, you have traumas. You're talking about Leko, Shirov, who else did I mention? Players, Kamsky. Kamsky's father terrorized him. I mean, so these guys were so close to being like. Shirov never actually played a match for the World Championship, right? But he was close, and he's not the same anymore. And it's the same with Kamsky and Leko. Leko's he's like a shell of his former self, as far as his playing strength goes. I mean, he seems very normal, but ever since he got married, it was a weird situation. He married, I believe, an Armenian woman whose father is a chess player, like an Armenian GM or something. And it seemed like it wasn't about the fact that he got married. Something about how this whole transitioning to a family from another country, it doesn't seem like he was ever the same since he became part of this Armenian family. Leko's always been a person who was kind of influenced by the people around him, controlling him and stuff. So, you see stories in the news media about Richard Simmons, people controlling him, if you take a famous celebrity, people are always trying to take advantage of them, control them, manipulate them somehow. And it seems like Leko probably, it's a question of people manipulating him, kind of controlling his life and stuff like that. So he's still the same person, kind of, but even when he was a kid, there were constantly different forces trying to control him and manipulate him. This is the situation. When you're really talented, you're gonna have people who are trying to take advantage of you and stuff. And it looks like Leko hasn't been the same since that match for the World Championship and since his changes in his personal life. What do you think? Who do you think the developments of the last 2 games favors the most? I think it's just business as usual in the World Championship. Carlsen will just continue to go down to the well and grind and grind and grind and grind and grind until, eventually maybe he turns up a piece of gold ore. It's maybe all 12 games will be drawn, or maybe Carlsen will be able to mine like 1 or 2 gold nuggets. Nothing really happened. I would classify it as absolute business as usual. So here, Mule Skinner. Sometimes I forget how tough Mule Skinner really is. You guys notice I had the chance to trade on that bishop on e3, and I didn't want to do it. I don't want any part in trading this knight on d5 for the bishop on e3. Mule Skinner is tricky. There, I was a little concerned with bishop h6. No spoilers. So that's the problem. When you're a strong player, people tend to take advantage of you. I don't know what happened to Shirov. He was very, very strong, but he's got all kinds of responsibilities. He was married several times. He has numerous children. I can't imagine it's very easy for him to really concentrate on his game. All right, Mule Skinner. Bishop takes c5. Man, you're hanging on. My knight is good, but it's probably not enough to win. I would imagine we'd evaluate this position as about equal. Okay, theoretically my knight is stronger than the bishop, but it's an open position. This bishop could sit here and be pretty powerful. I'm really low on time. My knight on d5 needs reinforcement. Bishop f4 here. Okay. Actually panicked and lost the pawn. I panicked and lost the pawn. It's alright. Wow, he didn't want it. And I still... Oh, you took that way. Mule Skinner has this massive time advantage. Pretty much every game he has the massive time advantage going on. One minute to 9 seconds. What is his blitz rating like? 1900. That's decent. He had a chance to win a pawn earlier. He could have traded queens and taken my a pawn into a very tactical ending. With the rook pawn, I have drawing chances against the rook pawn, but it's not so easy. With 2 rooks on the board, much more complicated than 1. So, in a standard, you're a chicken. In a standard, okay, yeah, you're slightly better, but this heavy piece ending is actually getting a little dangerous for you. You know, you're going to have to protect that pawn. You should have taken the ending with the pawn up, the rook ending with the pawn up. Yeah, I kind of was a chicken when I took on f4. I would be better off maybe giving up a pawn or something and keeping my good knight on the board. So as far as the World Championship goes, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. We just continue to grind, and I mean, Carlsen, he's got the initiative on his side. You know, he's tried to grind twice. I mean, he really outplayed Karyakin to some degree, you know, twice now. So I think psychologically, yeah, I mean, the last two games, if anything, the fact that Carlsen was close to something in two games, you know, that means more than, oh, Karyakin held, you know. You know your role. Like, one is being pushed to the wall, and the other one is like, if this was a boxing match being scored by points, Carlsen, you know, would win the match. Unfortunately, chess is not scored by points, but maybe that's an idea for the future. But I wouldn't be entirely surprised if every game was drawn. Neither side wants to take any risk, and we'll open with e4. Neither side wants to take any risk, but that's kind of normal for Carlsen's style. Normally, Karyakin is willing to take more risks, playing sharp, fairly sharp, like e4 Sicilians and stuff. But against Carlsen, he's gonna be more solid than his usual self. Okay, so Scandinavian with d5. Yeah, we've got to come up with something unusual here. I don't know what guitar player plays lately now after knight c3. I guess he plays queen a5. He might have played queen d8 too. I don't think I've seen him play queen d6. I played queen d6 a few games, but I never really had a lot. I think I played it maybe once in a tournament game. Come to mind, maybe just once. So queen d8. And then here I had some correspondence games on the site. I might have played with guitar player, I don't remember. Yeah, the -2 stockfish advantage Carlsen had on the supercomputers was not real in the end. Yeah, I mean, 1.5 is definitely not enough to win. It looks like the reality is usually most computers will like show something between 1.5 and 2 when it's like a winning position. But I don't really know. I mean, I'm not an expert. That's how it always used to be. Maybe it's changed over time, but it looks like I'll try maybe f3 here at some point. A lot of times endings, yeah, +2 isn't quite enough. Technical endings that are theoretical draws, the computer might show +2. e6. Looks like black's trying to play maybe bishop b4. Not moving his c pawn up. I was thinking of playing something sharp here. f3 and g4. It does rob my knight of the square f3, but I also take away e4 from his pieces. So it's interesting. This is a sharp way of playing against this queen d8. Wow, knight to c6. He has ideas of knight b4, I guess. I guess I'll play g4. Probably can't hurt. Famous last words. I have to resolve this d4 pawn. Knight e2. If knight e2, knight b4, I can play rook to c1. 。 . 。 . 。 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . There goes castling queenside. Bishop b5. Probably not a bad move. The bishop's not doing a whole lot anyway. With these pawns on the white squares, my bishop on f1 is pretty restricted. Yeah, I mean, it's credibility to Karyakin's defensive skills, but I mean, we're looking at it in terms of seeing the computer analysis. Queen d7. Wow. h4 or knight e2. It's probably best to just develop in this position. Now he's going to play what? Still, knight b4 is not on. If I play h4, what happens here? Maybe I should play h4, h6, or h4, h5, g5. h4, h5, g5, knight d5. Maybe something like knight to e2. What if I just castle queenside? There's all sorts of trouble. Maybe bishop b4. I guess if I needed to defend c2, I could always play bishop a4 in some situation. If for any reason that square needs to be protected by a minor piece, I have this bishop a4 idea. Well, guys, I'm off tomorrow, so we're going to be streaming again Friday the 25th. Friday the 25th will be the next stream. I just don't think that the Carlsen-Karyakin games are really, you know, that exciting for the general population. It's kind of technical style, Carlsen. Carlsen sort of controlling play, but also Karyakin a little bit afraid, so he's playing pretty conservatively. h6 now. I'm not sure that I benefit from playing h5 or not. Is there any direct benefit of that? Maybe it's better to just wait and think about completing my development. Site update in progress. So we are waiting on the site update in progress. Bonus time. 15 seconds each. As long as computer does not see to the end, all Carlsen's bishop moves is still -2. I didn't see the end position. I didn't see the last like 15 moves of the game, honestly. I went to sleep last night. But I had the feeling it would probably be another draw. Just knowing the way things have been going. I wasn't surprised. I thought it could go either way, but I wasn't surprised when I saw it was a draw at all, even though he was much better. But again, I mean, I just, you know, I don't see Karyakin having any chances. He's playing a little passively with white. this setup against the Lopez. I mean, why doesn't he try to do something, you know? It feels like he's playing the Carlsen's style a little bit. Playing this very unassuming stuff. I don't know. Is Carlsen going to play the Marshall? If Karyakin allows it? By the way, why is Karyakin playing all this anti-Marshall stuff? If it would be interesting to see a Marshall actually. What do I do here? Bishop d3. Probably nothing special. I don't want to give up my bishop. We see all this anti-Marshall. It's very quiet for white, though. I mean, why doesn't Karyakin try a little bit harder to get an advantage with something sharper? What would happen, by the way, if he did that? I'm just curious. Tried to play the main line, Lopez, instead of h3, something totally innocuous. Castle's queenside. We have to do something here. This is not theoretical. I just made up, more or less made up the system. Bishop f4 is a move that's probably been played, but I doubt there's too many games. I didn't really play anything special. I wanted to play something unusual, but I was going to play rook b1 if guitar player played queen a5, but against queen d8, he's just playing his normal repertoire. I guess the Scandinavian is weird enough of an opening that it's hard to get something weird to counter it with. Again, queen a5 would have been my idea. So now he's got some threats. Maybe this? I just don't want to get pinned with bishop b4. The dark square bishop this tends to be a bad piece in the Scandinavian. In these queen takes d5 Scandinavians, the dark square bishop tends to be a really bad piece. And this position was no exception. f5. Guess we just kind of have to live with it. Maybe it was better to take on f5, but in any case I'd have to move my knight. And I could have played knight c5, I guess. What's going on here? Black has retreated a little bit from the center. Still, his position remains fairly solid. I didn't take on f5 because honestly I thought his bishop on f7 would have been pretty powerful in some lines. It looks like white might have some kind of tiny advantage here. I was worried about that h-pawn. It's a perceptive move. Looks like black is slightly better now. Threatening here. Wow, g5. That's kind of a weird move. Rook h1, knight f5. Black's played a solid master. I was seriously concerned about my not being worse here. He's 21-21. I think he plays much better than that. More like 22-50. I mean, I wouldn't have any qualms with saying black was a master. The way he's played this game. And usually that's the case against guitar player. This exchange is weird though. I mean, he doesn't need, I think it's just time. The time makes him nervous or something because he's made some minor inaccuracies, but still he's probably equal. And then this move h5. I guess it's fine. I guess it's just a draw. I don't see any advantage here. So maybe I have to be careful. I don't know. I don't think I ever had a serious advantage in this game. Okay, let's try to get some unusual openings going because it's been a little standard today. We've got very little choice though. I wanted to play rook b1 or b4 against queen a5, but he played queen d8. What can I do? You know, I mean, against queen d8 it's hard. Inakua plays b6. He's playing the unusual opening here. I sound upset. Well, I mean, I'm disappointed. I failed to get an advantage against the queen d8 Scandinavian. Um, Nothing seems more violating like the fundamental principles of chess than playing queen d5, d8, and it's very frustrating to not be able to get an advantage against that opening. I don't know, you know. It's like black's just losing a tempo, and it just makes me want to bang my head against the wall, you know. But anyway, queen e2. It's not the first game I've struggled. I mean, I'm trying to play something sharp for white, and I can't find anything. So if you hear I sound angry, it's more like a frustration about not being able to get an advantage against this weird opening. E6. He's played a6 and b6. I don't know why Inakio played a6. That is definitely an unnecessary move. Not a standard Scandi. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm trying to play bishop f4 and maybe castle queenside and create something kind of dynamic. You know, black's playing queen d8, d8. It seems like white, you know, should do something sharp to try to punish it, you know, but the routine castling kingside seems fairly lame. So it's still a work in progress, bishop f4, but it looks like one of the better tries for white, in my opinion. So it looks like Inakio is playing some kind of hippopotamus type of thing with his knight on c6. Not really normal looking. Now maybe e5, we try to punish it here. It might be my last chance to play e5, because if I don't play e5, he could play e5 himself, which leaves him in a kind of Lopez type position. e5 is double-edged, though. It opens up his bishop on b7. Yeah, maybe we're better off just playing standard chess. How about rook d1? We try to stop e5 a different way. Free up the f1 square for maneuvering the knight. Inakio is very fast. This is actually a blitz game. Rook d1. There's another guy who was playing on my stream. I can't remember the name now, who plays the queen d8 Scandinavian. A Dutch guy. It's just... Actually, Jeroen's not here today. Our moderator, who's also Dutch. He'd probably remember. I have had some queen d8 Scandinavians with that guy. This Dutch guy. I can't remember his handle. Similar to the game we just played. So I had a little bit of practice in that variation. But I didn't have great success against him either. Black had a very solid position. But it's strange for me, this Scandinavian has a solid opening. Now I think e5, I mean, we really need to go for it here. This is too much. You know, at this point, his king side looks weak. The knight on f6 is chased away. He's played queen c8. Yesterday against Inakio, I played a good game and I dropped my queen. Just one mover. Queen takes pawn, rook takes queen, resigns. I have had a tendency to do that this past week. We are going to be on the lookout for one move tactics. I'm very clear and crisp. Yeah, the cold hasn't gotten into my lungs yet, so at least my my talking sounds clear. e5. All right. Yeah, this as far as I know, Inakio, I mean, you shouldn't play a6, and basically you should play e5 when you get the chance. I mean, I see the point of a6 to stop stuff like bishop a6 and bishop b5, but it's not necessarily a big deal. If I play something like bishop b5, bishop a6, you can deal with it. You know, bishop a6, queen c8, bishop b5, a6. It seems like whatever I did, you could deal with it. Now you've got problems with the king side without enough defenders. So white should have a really strong king side attack here. It's possible, but I don't think you can do some sort of piece sacrifice on h7. Not enough development. We're going to need to force him to weaken his king side first. There's no rush. Maybe I should just develop naturally. Threatening knight h5 sometimes. Black has no counterplay. If he moves his f-pawn forward, he weakens the e6 and the e-line significantly. I think the Scandinavian is really just a cousin of the Caro-Kann. Basically, that's what black's getting in all these Scandinavian lines, kind of white square pawn structure, dark square piece play. That's structurally similar to the Caro-Kann. Although the last game, there's f6. I was thinking about that, and I was serious. Yeah, it's probably his best chance, as horrible as it looks. The basic premise would be that, like, he could also play f5, honestly. You know, maybe it's to block it up. The basic premise here, but this pawn is horrifically weak on e6. And that should be probably about lost. He's got knight to d8 type defenses. It's a blitz game. I have to be fast. This looks like a wickedly strong attack for white. But Innocuous, he's a fighter. There's some possibilities of knight f5. You could consider bishop f5 in some positions. But I was thinking about, as tough as the Scandinavian seems, you know, yeah, really, you should be happy to face it. I mean, there's got to be a better chance of getting an advantage against the Scandinavian than something solid like e4, e5. So we shouldn't fear black playing the Scandinavian. I mean, it should be a good thing. White should be able to have a decent chance to get a slight advantage. Whereas in most openings, it seems like that's not really the case, you know? In most openings, it seems like, am I doing the right thing here? Taking with the queen? Should I take with the knight? Should I not take it all? We don't have a lot of time to think about it. I guess queen takes. It seems like white has a hard time. That's a nice move to find with very, very little time on the clock, Mr. Innocuo. I've got to give you credit for that. It's a hell of a move to find. But I do have queen h3. Then you've got another move yourself, huh? Well, alright, we'll just play it safe here. Queen e2. If queen h3 has bishop c8, and it gets a little weird. My queen doesn't have any good squares. Bishop c5. maybe b4. Knight e6, bishop takes f2. That's also fun. Knight e4. I don't know what to do. Forking these squares. Jesus. To be very, very careful. It's like he has tremendous counterplay here. Queen h5. I think he had knight takes rook followed by that move, last move, which would have been really nasty. Oh. Obviously a bullet player. Nakia, what is your bullet rating? From Belize, 2000. Okay. He likes to play fast. So Ghost Mine 7-3 standard. Nice defense there. Last game, by the way. Okay, let's play something different with white. The Polish I had bad result with. F4. In honor of our non-present moderator. Are you doing any coverage of the World Championship match? Absolutely not. I'm not interested. Not interested in this match. I've been, since the beginning, I don't want any part in it. I'm not a huge fan of Magnus, although I admit he's the best player in the world. Stylistically, I don't really, like him that much. But the challenger is just like, you might as well just pick it out of a hat, One tournament to determine the World Championship challenger. It's an absurd concept. It should go back to being like a series of candidates matches or some kind of system that involves a serious number of events. Maybe you could have like a Grand Prix or some kind of tournament series, and whoever's the winner of the overall thing. But to have one tournament, determine who challenges the world champion, it's like a stupid concept. It's not as bad as the knockout world championship that they had when like Halifman and totally random people became world champion. But yeah, I mean, it's better than Anand versus Carlsen, but it's not by much. It should be a top player, like, as I said, Kramnik or Caruana, or even somebody in the top 5 at least. But it's like a mismatch in a sense. I mean, number 9 against number 1 in the world. I'm not at all turned on by this match. I mean, I'm not watching the games. I'm checking them out when they're over, basically. But I'm not. It's just another tournament to me. Anyway, like, there's a million people who are analyzing this match, a million websites and stuff, tons of coverage, but there's really what can you talk about? Oh, Carlsen's trying to grind down another technical position. It's not exactly an exciting match. Maybe exciting in the sense that, like, you know, it's I don't know, actually. This is not really exciting. Exciting that Karyakin really cares. That's exciting, I guess. Let's try to play Simon Williams style here. D3. Bishop c6, that's a very strange move. Actually encouraging me to play knight e5 at some point. Alright, so the classical Dutch in reverse, basically. Now d4. We have two possibilities, trying to play against this pawn as a weakness, or just pushing past. I don't understand bishop c6. What is the purpose of that move? It could have been a mouse slip. Ghost mine moves very quickly. And there, I guess, he could have played knight to g4 with the idea of knight e3. So, I was really disgusted by the last two matches with Anand, who just seemed totally uninterested in playing, you know, or at least didn't seem to believe he had even a shot, so why bother seriously trying? But Karyakin believes in himself. You know, we can see that in these two games. He says, so it's nice to see a fight. I don't think that he has a really good chance to hold in the long run. It is just a 12-game match, though. You know, I think they're trying to make chess more exciting by making the matches shorter. All they're doing is making the result a little more random, which I guess the crowds would like to see an upset or something. But it should be a 24-game match, and it should be, honestly, 12 games is just not statistically, you know, that convincing. So I'd like to see a longer match of more games, and the challengers event a little more events, more serious. It just seems too much random chance involved in who's the challenger. And I know it was a strong tournament that Karyakin won, but it's just one tournament. I mean, that's statistically, like, it's not really relevant, you know, who wins one tournament. Shouldn't be the challenger for the World Championship. My boys didn't win, Kramnik and Caruana. Now I'm crying sour grapes, but you guys will see. I mean, I don't think the Karyakin has a serious chance. Maybe in the blitz games, if he gets to the blitz games, the chance of an accident happening would increase. The faster the time control. You know, I don't see Carlsen blundering in a long game or maybe even a rapid game, not so much. And I think we're going to see the other thing. I've played Carlsen one game in rapid. I can tell you he's very, very fast. So he's going to still have a huge advantage. Even if Karyakin somehow draws all 12 games, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, he's still going to be a very significant underdog. Even maybe I wouldn't say a bigger underdog, because the chance of an accident happening are a little higher in rapid or blitz. But on the other side of the coin, I think that Carlsen might even have a bigger advantage, because he's He's extremely fast. Okay, constant change. Alright, so what do we do now? We're white again. Yeah, let's play a3. We played f4, a3. I'm not having much luck with e4. I would play like a King's Gambit or maybe some kind of cool classical type opening. We have seen some strong players play a3 and then transfer to the English opening. I think that's the best. a3 is pretty much most often a useful move in the English. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give like the Anand Carlsen matches like a 2 in terms of like how interested I was. And probably this one would get like a 3. They've got to find somebody for Carlsen to play. I mean, it really needs to be like the second strongest player in the world, or maybe the third strongest player in the world. But Karyakin doesn't cut it, you know. So you have to blame the system, basically. You got a guy who's just really, really clearly the best player in the world. You know, it's not like it's even close. He's like 50 rating points higher than anyone else. Bishop e7. Pretty conservative setup. Constant change always plays pretty much the same way. a3 comes in handy here. It is actually a line in the 4 Knights English, stopping bishop b4. But objectively, there are some interesting points. You know, if black tried to play like d5, we could end up with like an O'Kelly reversed, which is probably good for me. So I think the best there, the bishop e7 is fine, but maybe the best is like g6. Because a3 in the King's Indian type of position, it doesn't really have a... Yeah, I'm definitely fighting a cold. a3 doesn't have a really a very powerful sense of usefulness in the g6 type positions. I don't think so. So g6 would be my choice. I'm tempted to try to transfer to a kind of like e4 sort of position here. e4, d6. Yeah, I could see that happening. e4, d6. Maybe. And then he'd have bishop g4, which would be controlling the d4 square. What else can I do? e3 is not really dangerous for black. e3. Then he could play d5, perhaps. We'd have a reverse Sicilian. d4 right away. Maybe that's the best. d4, e4 with reverse French type thing. If d4, e4, knight g5, actually, should we try d4? Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. a3 feels like it's pretty costly in terms of time. Takes. Alright, let's give it a shot. A little over an hour to go. Saroche's here. I played f4. You missed it. Good to see you, man. My last stream for a week, and you're already taking the day off. I've got a little cold going on, but we're alright. It's raining like sleet here. How is your weather? Sleet. Beautiful. Beautiful weather in Budapest, Hungary. Alright, e takes d, knight takes d4. I could consider knight to d5. That's a weird move. Relevant in this position because he doesn't have the retreat knight e7. But ultimately, I'm not sure that it really does anything. We wasted a lot of time, as we usually do. I like to talk about the game and oftentimes spend like a minute on a move, sometimes several moves. I'll do that. So here we have the 2-minute. Now in that position, honestly, constant change, I thought maybe you should play d5. Like, it's not logical. It's not logical to play d5 here. Bang. Because if you play d5 now, my a3 move, it feels slightly irrelevant. Just an idea. Now, my plan, I guess we try to execute the plan. Though it's not the only way to play. I can play other ways. g3. I don't really like g3 in this position. I'll tell you why. This a3 weakens the queen side slightly, and then if I play g3, it seems like the c4 pawn is difficult to protect. I'm going to go with e4 here. a3 is totally irrelevant, but we have a Marazzi bind on black. So we have to have some kind of spatial advantage. How come people around under 25 are the top chess players in the world? Why do they peak over old people? I'll tell you a secret. We're having this discussion about Peter Leko earlier, and I don't think it's about being old. I think it's about the other things in life, the other responsibilities, distractions, and problems that tend to plague older people. It's not that Peter Leko's brain or my brain is slower or weaker than a younger counterpart. It's that we have wives, jobs, responsibility, relatives who died, tragedies that happen. So any number of things. My personal feeling is that it's not about age per se. It's about the baggage that comes along with the age. And in some cases, maybe people, are slower, but I really think it's the baggage, not the age itself, that's the problem. So if you took away all of the responsibilities of these 40, 35, 45-year-old players, took away their ex-wives, their 6 children, I think you'd see a different player there, So it's not exactly about age itself. That's my opinion. That's why is Shirov not in the top 10? Why is Leko not in the top 10? It's not about the age. It's about the stuff that gets stuck with you along the way. You pick up more baggage as you get older. That's the real problem. And some people deal with it better than others. And some people, maybe like an Ivanchuk or a Gelfand, have been able to deal with it or have less baggage than other top players. All right, so that's enough of that. Enough of that discussion. I think it makes sense, When you're young, you don't have any baggage. I mean, in some cases you do, You have an abusive father like Kamsky. That's a handicap right away. I mean, in some sense, it helped Kamsky because his father was practically forcing him to play well. But in the long run, what happened? Kamsky burned out, and then he had to take 5 years or whatever off of chess and come back. So I'm not sure if I had no responsibilities, like a teenager, I would be any weaker than. There's a little bit of stamina that factors in, but if you condition yourself, and exercise every day at the age of 35 or 40, I don't think that you're necessarily going to perform worse than younger players your age. Guys, this is my last stream until next Friday, so I will be playing chess in a tournament How old is Judith Polgar? She's a lot younger than me. I don't know. She's like 37, 30. I don't know. How old is she? She dresses like she's 60. Let's see. It's Harkon. If you guys are interested, this is the tournament I'm playing in. It's not going to be, it doesn't look like it's going to be a really big event, but I just put the name of the tournament there. Judith Polgar, it's ridiculous. I don't even want to get started about Judith Polgar. I never ever had any issues with Judith Polgar. I think she's a good person. But this quitting chess, you know, really, she already has a ton of money. I mean, it's just, for me, I don't know. If I was a millionaire, I wouldn't quit playing to be like more of a millionaire, you know. I mean, to me, that's kind of strange. But she has her family and she has her responsibility. She has her choice. It's her choice. She's still relatively young. So I want to centralize my rooks on d1 and e1. And I guess she's around 36. I don't know how old she is exactly. I'm sure someone could look it up. But I'm guessing 36. So here we go with the d5 business. Constant change. Old Indian. The old Indian style. Rook d1. I think we can get away with this. Pin and counter pin. You try any funny business? I don't know. He didn't do it. Wow. I was afraid he was going to go for it there. We got 4 minutes to 1 minute. There's no worries for kids, in most cases. You have a father who beats you, you definitely have worry. But fortunately, that's more often the exception than the rule. Kamsky's case. Here, a knight takes e6. It's possible. It's always possible. We're getting a little low on time. Pretty good Marazzi though. It worked out. A3 is not a bad move to have in here. Everything's coordinated. Yeah, he sees the idea. Maybe b4. Okay. Oh man. All right, we go with the queenside majority. For better or for worse. In sickness and in health. We're going to go for the queenside majority against this guy, these guys. Hopefully we can make a pass pawn and convert a touchdown on the queen side. We leave him with the isolated pawn, but it's not the isolated pawn that's black's problem here. You know, the pawn itself is ultra protected, and that's never going to fall. Just the resulting structure on the queen side. He might have some counterplay, but hopefully it's not enough. Knight e5 would have been interesting, but I have bishop takes h6. Now what do I do? Good question. Knight a4 is looking pretty cool. I just try not to hang pieces. That's really been the demon in the last in the last few streams. It's been my personal demon. Dropping pieces is my specialty. Alright, c6 is tempting, but what do I do after that? Oh, man, I don't know. I guess we get a little closer to a passed pawn here. Slowly. This queen is pretty strangely placed. Doesn't have a lot of squares. Whoa. Constant change. What's that about? I thought you had pawn takes pawn. Knight takes... Oh, queen f6, right? He must have seen some sort of ghost I didn't see. Why did he have to sacrifice a piece there? I don't know. Don't know. I don't have too much time to worry about it, though. Bishop g5. Alright. No bishop g5, please. I had knight there. Ooh. A return ticket. Return ticket. Well, this is winning. Black didn't find a moment in this game to get a reasonable position, but you have to find an active moment. Knight takes f4. What? Alright, he's panic mode. My queen is trapped? It's not quite trapped. Not quite. I'm up. But I have 3 pieces for a rook. That's an unusual... accounting. 3 pieces for the rook. Alright, that's too much. Thank you for the game, Constant Change. We've got too many challenges, guys. Don't anybody else challenge me. I don't know why. I think that they like the weird openings stream title. We have more challengers than we've ever had before. Etat Soir, Max 123, Lapinu is a new one. He challenged me to 5-6 Lapinu. That increment is too long. Lapinu, if you see me on the stream or hear me, try to change your challenge to a maximum of... I'll let it go. Never mind. Normally we don't do longer than 5-second increments. Zayesh. I guess it's Zayesh. Okay, you have just about enough games. I normally don't play unrated. I mean, players who don't have enough games. But, alright, Etat Soir. Dropping the whole house, Cerebral Assassin. To be an IM like yourself, is it necessary to have a real job or you make money from chess? Fabunko asks the question of the ages. The answer is it all depends. There are different people and they deal with it. I don't know. You know, I think that an IM like me, someone who's an average IM around 2400 FIDE, I'm actually pretty experienced in teaching chess, so I'm able to make a living. I could always make a living teaching chess. Not everyone can do that. Maybe they don't speak English. Maybe they live in a very obscure location. Not everybody has internet access. I mean, it depends, but I think that a decently strong international master should be able to make a living teaching the game. It helps if you live in a metropolitan area, a wealthy metropolitan area like Boston, where I used to live. I could make a living teaching chess in the schools, for example. Here in Hungary, it's a little bit problematic, you know, because I don't speak Hungarian that well, and the cost of living here doesn't afford people to really pay for chess lessons. It's not, I didn't move to Hungary to be a chess teacher. I moved to Hungary to play. So it's kind of tricky for me. But in general, yeah, I think that's about the level you should really have to be to. There are weaker players, national masters, who can make a living teaching chess. It depends on your location, and some people don't like to teach chess, but I enjoy it. As far as playing goes, I think you have to be a pretty strong GM, to make a living at the game by playing. And even them, I mean, if I draw a comparison to American GMs that I knew, like who are playing full time and not really teaching chess, I can say some names like Alexander Shabalov, Alexander Ivanov. These are guys who dominated the tournament scene like in the 90s in the United States. What did they have in common? That their wives had like full-time jobs with very high paying or good, solid paying salaries. So it depends, I mean, they were kind of lucky because they earned money, but they didn't have to only depend on their tournament winnings. And I think if a Shabalov or Ivanov had to worry about, it would be they'd have to start teaching chess. Basically, they were just playing in tournaments. But all right, we're playing the Verisov here. To really make a living playing chess, I think you have to be not a super GM, but extremely, minimum 2650 or something like 2650 or so. It's very hard, like for the Hungarian GMs I know, who are 2500, 2550 to make a living playing in tournaments and stuff like that. There are less and less tournaments that are like giving free accommodation or conditions for players. Fabunko thought I was Hungarian. No. But if I wanted to make a living teaching chess, I probably should move back to the United States. Remember Nick DeFermian saying that even in a rich country like Denmark, where he was living, nobody wanted to pay for chess lessons. It's not as much a part of the culture. This whole concept of like paying for private lessons is a little more common in the West. D takes e4 here. Well, what about this position now? If I take with the pawn, I mean, I have to take with the pawn. All right. But I was playing poker for 6 years, so that's why I have very few games over the last 6 years. I wasn't even really teaching chess very much, just a few. For 5 years, I had maybe maximum 3 students, and I was focusing just on playing poker. So I'm kind of an exceptional case. I think there are players, there are IMs who have regular jobs, a lot of them. So it depends also how much money you want to make. I mean, I know a lot of grandmasters who quit the game to go into financial jobs mostly, or become lawyers or some other high paying salary. H6, bishop h4. Countless strong chess players have quit the game because there's not enough money. I always joke about my friend Elon Schwartz, who is a FIDE master from New York in Brooklyn. He told me one day, I said, why don't you play chess anymore? He was like, well, I'm just playing poker, man. He was like, I had to quit chess due to perpetual brokenness, and I understand. So he later went on to hit it and win like 4th place in the World Series of Poker. But that's a guy who's like very, very good poker player and also very lucky too. It's a rare exception. So you have to just scrape by in some instances. H6, bishop e3. I think that, I think that chess is very difficult to make a living. It's not easy money, no matter how you do it, whether it's teaching, playing in tournaments. If you want to be rich, I would only go with chess as a backup. I'm going to play a3 here. I was never a person who was obsessed with money. I like money, but I don't live for it. And I think historically, a lot of chess players came from wealthy families. If we look at, it's not the case across the board, but if we look at historical chess players from a century ago, most of them came from kind of oftentimes wealthy families. If you look at Morphy, for example, he came from a wealthy family, and he wouldn't have been able to become world champion if he didn't have the financial resources to just focus on chess. Okay, so Queen G4. Yeah, this is interesting. Queen G4, Knight F6. Looks like my queen is getting trapped. I'm not interested. I'm gonna pass. We're gonna sacrifice this pawn a different way. Maybe bishop d3 straight up. He's got queen h4 check. Whoops. That doesn't work though, does it? Bishop d3, queen h4 check, g3. Knight takes. Uh-oh. It's a little complicated. No, knight takes bishop f2. That's not complicated. That's not complicated at all. Right? Well, I showed him everything now. Ex-chess player from Poland won the last EPT Barcelona main event. Yeah, it was a lot easier to make money playing poker than chess. It wasn't, but unfortunately it hurt me because my chances of becoming a GM are going down like very, very strongly after not playing for 5 years, basically. I could have focused entirely on chess and very possibly gotten a GM title instead of playing poker for 5 years. But you know what? You can only make a choice. You can only do one thing at a time. So I don't know how like the Norwegian Grandmaster Simon Agdestein or whatever was it. How the heck he was like a professional or semi-professional football player and chess player at the same time. I think anybody who can do that, professionally, 2 things at the same time, that's pretty insane, I've always been a person who focuses on one thing primarily. I'm not a genius, like Anand or something. Certain chess players worked very hard, and certain ones, and a few are brilliant geniuses. Yeah, bishop f2, of course. I'm sorry, but I talked about, I guess you have the stream turned off. Yeah. It was kind of a greedy move, though, queen h4. You're up a pawn already, and... Oh, you're planning on playing queen h5 on bishop f2. I saw that, but you still lose a piece. Right? I did see that. Yeah, it defends your queen with a knight on g3, but I just played bishop takes g3. It was greedy, though. You're up a pawn, and you're trying for more. Black should try to consolidate. You wanted the easy win. Yeah, the super high rollers is... Well, look, DST, let's be honest. I mean, mostly poker is just a bunch of rich people. I mean, it's a huge advantage to be rich in poker. It's a massive advantage. There's no question about it, you know. The high rollers are a bunch of crazy rich guys, mostly, you know, throwing their money around, but let's not ignore the fact that being rich is a massive advantage in poker. If I didn't have a certain amount of money, I never would have been able to get to where I was, as far as I got in poker. So this is all planned, yeah. But actually, you know, my example of Elon Schwartz is a good example, because he's a guy who didn't come from money, and he was able to make a career out of poker as a chess, you know, coming from a chess background, without having, you know, a lot of backing or money. That's hard to do. But anyway, back to chess, making a living. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend you quit school to become a professional chess player. I always made sure that I finished my undergraduate degree, just in case, you know, if I ever want to become like a postman or something, they'll accept me. But anyway, it's hard. There's always regrets in life, no matter what you do. I think it's important to keep a positive attitude. I tend to be a little bit too pessimistic, and that's reflected in my chess game too. I guess there's an advantage to being pessimistic. You know, you avoid a lot of dangerous situations, but you also avoid profitable situations. So it's tricky. We are piece up for one pawn. No, that's two pawns. Okay. 2 pawns. I got 2 mighty bishops too. These bishops are raking the board. Guys, we have another 35 minutes, so that's enough time for damn, yeah. I mean, Blitzarian is just a rich guy. I mean, anybody could do that. So don't quit school to play just chess unless your rating is at least 2600. That would be my advice to the kids. I wasn't strong enough to consider something like that, though. I mean, I only started chess when I was like 12 and only became a master around 18, and I am when I was 25. I wasn't a child prodigy, so quitting chess, you know, quitting school to be a chess pro wasn't really an option. When you gradually improve, Tatsuar does not want to give up here. 2 pawns for a piece. He's tied down to f7. I'm looking for tactics, but I don't seem to have anything. We could trade his bishop off, perhaps. He can't castle queenside because of f7. Yeah, I thought I should maybe play king f2. That's okay. We'll put the king on f2. It was a better square. You have to think about geometry a lot when you're looking at knights. Try to dominate the position of the knight so it can't check you within the next several moves. I was debating between king e2 and king f2, and I'm not sure. I picked the right one, but it's all right. Ultimately, now knight f5. Fortunately, we're up a piece, so we have quite a bit of leeway in what we can do here. Let's force an exchange. I thought maybe bishop c6 there. Seems a pity to trade that off, doesn't it? Let's wait. Let's wait on this. Knight f5. Hard to make progress, isn't it? Oh man, knight f5. Now I'm going to be forced to take that. But now it's clear piece up against bad bishop too. Bad bishop. I don't want to take you unless I have to. I could take. It's good enough, but my knight is awfully strong. I think I have the option to take if and when I want to. Now bishop g5, bishop f6 looks murderous. He's going to be like paralyzed in the middle of the board. And he can't castle either way. Oh no. He's paralyzed. He's going to castle now. I let him castle. He's still paralyzed. We do have sacrifices coming up and other nasty things in store for you. What's the best way to set this up? Maybe rook e1. Oh, I see. Okay, so you want to play bishop a6. It's almost some sort of mate here, but knight c6. He's got this hitting my c4 pawn. Guess we'll just defend with the king. I guess we could play knight c6. It's very hard for him. He's just paralyzed, and this pawn here should fall eventually. Bishop takes. Spirited fight. I'm really finding a way to screw this up. probably the worst technique I ever had in my life. That is way, way closer than that game should have ever been. Nice, nice spirited fight to the death from Tatsuar. Really a man after my own heart. You're hard to kill. What is soccer? How did the name soccer get invented? Max 123. That was a very, very bad technique by me. So it's still Weird Wednesday. We were playing unusual openings. We've tried a number of things. Let's play C3, the Saragossa opening. I played this on a few occasions in tournaments. Knight F6, really? I was hoping for E5 or D5. Alright. It looks like we might have to transpose some kind of London system. I like how like Nigel Davies wrote a DVD for ChessBase. The accelerated London system. The accelerated London. Like it's some sharp, aggressive opening, you know. D4, D5, Bishop F4. Probably one of the most solid and boring openings in chess. But we can make it sound like really... We can make it sound really cool by calling it the accelerated London. Bishop F4. Once I played D4, D5, Bishop F4 against Joel Benjamin when I was white. And Joel played... How did it go? It was D4. I was white. It was D4, D5, Bishop F4. Joel played C6. And I played C3, and he was just like... He made a face. Like, he just couldn't believe how insipid I could play. You know? It's pretty boring. But there's quite a trend going on at the moment with this London system. If you want a solid opening... You know, there's a reason why Magnus plays this stuff, I guess. Kamsky. The most solid opening in chess, probably. Alright guys, don't forget to check out my YouTube videos, video chess training on YouTube. I'll be back on the 25th of November, the day after Thanksgiving. This is, I think, one of the best setups for black. The fianchetto with d5. And this is something I could see like a really strong world champion, like a Botvinnik or Smyslov, playing these sort of setups for black. I'm not really an expert on the London system. I have studied a lot of games by like Rubinstein, who played it very well, and I respect it. But I don't think it should be something that you play, you know, universally without playing anything else. It's a good starting opening for white and a good, like, sort of surprise opening. But if you play just this opening for white, I think you're limiting yourself. Knight bd7 is a little bit quiet. You could also play c5 directly. I don't know that white really can take the pawn profitably. I guess there are variations with c5, d takes c. But when you play knight d7, you put your knight on a slightly passive square. It's fine, but there's an argument for c5 right away. Anyway, knight b7 is okay. If I play e3, knight h5, is that good for black? Standard position, I guess. You don't really catch me playing the London system, but I have respect for the positional play of great masters. Rubinstein, Kamsky, my friend Alexei Dreyev also played a lot of bishop f4. It's a good opening against certain players too, because certain players who are like specialist tacticians love to play wide open games. If you play something like this, if Kamsky, for example, plays against someone who's a maniacal tactician, and he just plays like d4, bishop f4, it's a good way to take the fun out of the game against those wild attacking players. And for a player with the technique of a Kamsky or Rubinstein or Alexei Dreyev, this type of opening is fine. So b6 here. If black has a d6 King's Indian type of pawn structure, I think that the bishop should go on e2. But when we have the pawn on d5, then the bishop can be placed on d3. We don't have to fear, d6, e5, e4 forking pieces. So normally the bishop's a little more aggressively placed here on d3, giving my queen a square at e2, etc., etc. It looks like black is just kind of a tempo down, having played c6 instead of c5 in one move. But it really shouldn't be like a big problem. I think black is still almost equal. The nature of the opening is just, white is essentially playing a solid defense, like as an opening. I'm playing like the Slav defense as an opening with white, essentially. I'm not really entitled to an opening advantage. We're just trying to outplay black later on. That's the basic concept. So now with c5, he has ideas of playing knight e4. He's ahead of me on the clock considerably here, 6 minutes to 4.5. Quite a closed position, max 1, 2, 3. 2000 classical, 1500 in bullet. So he's probably playing with his trackpad. It's funny, the other day someone I made a comment in one of my simuls or something like, the guy was 1500 in bullet and playing like a master, and I made a comment in the simul like, I don't believe how this guy can be 1500 and play like a master. But later on he said that his reason for this was that he plays bullet with his trackpad. And I was thinking like, man, that's crazy, I mean, really, like, seriously? Why would you play bullet with a trackpad? I mean, that's insane. I hate trackpad, but even if you're competent in with using the trackpad, how the heck can people play bullet with a trackpad? Of course you'd be 1500. I would be 1500 if I played bullet with a trackpad. I'd probably be like 1400. So knight h5 is a bad move. And I think the simplest solution for black here is to meet a4 with a6. It's pretty standard. Not to allow this a5 break. I mean, the basic idea is that I can regain the pawn with queen a4 and queen takes a5. And so now he's actually blundered. What's up? Alright. He's blundered? No, he didn't. He blundered or not? He didn't blunder. I said he blundered. Never mind. Never mind. So a6. I think he's just gone in the wrong direction. Although he does have f5 maybe, trying to create a Dutch-like position. I wish I was more of an expert in these kind of lines. Queen a4. This is a weird move. This feels like a weird move. What if black plays c4 at some point? After that. Okay, let's... Is f5 a possibility? I'm really hedging here on committing myself to do just about anything. Knight e5. Interesting. Let's go for it. Okay, classic closed queen pawn, established piece on e5. Classic idea. Maybe a mistake here. Possibly this is a weak move. Complicated by his knight on h5. I have tactical threats. So I think the problem is if he takes on e5, I take with a pawn, and then I'm threatening to trap his knight with g4. And then I thought this is very interesting. Knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, d4, with complications. But here he's apparently drifting into a weird situation. I guess he might lose material. Guys, we should have time for one more game after this. Possibly two if it's fast. So I'm sorry to all those, who challenged me. We had a lot of challenges today. And what is a trackpad? Touchpad, same thing. Naroditsky was top one in bullet on lichess with a trackpad. He was born with a trackpad. He was born with a trackpad in his hand. Yeah. So, what's going on, guys? Your knight on d7 is restricted. We have knight c6, queen e8, and all sorts of nasty stuff. Nasty surprises here. What is going on? At first glance, it looks very good. Yeah, it's paralysis, right? Complete and utter paralysis. That is sweet. Black played too passively. There's no knight b8. There's no fun. No fun. Passive. I guess that's the worst sin in chess, playing passively. It seems like that leads to more losses than anything else. Reckless. Yeah, I guess they're tied. Recklessness and passivity are equally bad. You have to find a balance. Black was too indecisive. Knight e4 has got to be better than knight h5. And the other thing is that maybe you could have taken on e5 and tried to open up your bishop with d4 and launched into some complications. What's the final analysis here? Black is paralyzed completely. I mean, I was born before the internet was... I don't know when it was exactly invented, technically, but everyone claims to have invented the internet. There were mouses around from about the time I was, I guess, maybe my first mouse I used when I was like 8 years old. But touch pads, I think we've got to go to around 1990 for touch pads or track pads. H6. So you really have to be born with the trackpad to properly understand how to use it. H6, F4. We might as well just increase the space advantage here. He's not going anywhere. He does have a new square for his knight now on H7. Whereas he didn't used to have waiting moves. He now has waiting moves. You see how the London system, the Tory attack, the Stonewall attack, Colley system, they're all interrelated with this kind of standard. Establish a piece on E5, try to play F4, Stonewall attack. Yeah, black's going to have to sacrifice quite a bit here to get out of this, it appears. I can save my bishop on D6. That's the key here. I thought I could. Yeah. Oh, that's hanging. Oh, no. Oh, no. It wasn't a good game. All right. Lapinu, I told him to let the challenge. As long as you have like 50 games. Yeah. All right. Normally I don't do an increment longer than 5 seconds, but 6 seconds is okay. We'll let it slide. So unusual openings. Let's play E4 and see what we can do after that. I remember the mouses, man. That was my first mouse with a rubber ball inside. The original Apple. My first computer was an Apple IIc when I was like 8 years old, and that was, I don't know, man, like 1980. 82 maybe. I was 10. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It was probably like 1982. I wanted to play an unusual opening, and now I kind of screwed it up by playing knight f3. So let's try something out here. Unusual openings. The Ponziani. Let's play the Ponziani. It's almost like a normal opening, but who plays the Ponziani anyway? There was a Hungarian guy, Tomcsányi Peter, who actually, he's the only person I know who's ever written a book on the Ponziani. He was sort of obsessed with it. I guess the more fun line is when black plays d5 and then white plays queen a4. It's kind of like a Scandinavian. b3. b3 is pretty bizarre. Okay, now pawn takes pawn. My Ponziani theory is a little out of date here. This might be a mistake. What is he supposed to do after d4? I think he's supposed to take on e4. I think this is already a mistake. So now I play e5. But I guess this is playable for black. I don't know. Maybe it's not a big mistake. Obviously, if I play CD, he has bishop e4 check, trading a truckload of pieces off, which should be somewhat useful, I guess. We have alternative possibilities. Bishop c4, maybe? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to cut it. Bishop d3, knight c5 looks okay for black. And, so we go for the truckload of pieces. C takes d, bishop e4 check, knight d2. It looks pretty lame for me. But I don't know what else to do. Bishop d3, trying to develop quickly. Maybe sacking a pawn. Bishop d3 and develop quickly. Or even bishop d3, knight c5, pawn takes pawn, knight takes, queen takes. Black's okay there. Bishop d3, knight c5, bishop g5, bishop e7. Well, what else can I do here? Bishop c4 looks stupid. Pawn takes pawn, trade everything. Bishop d3, giving up the white squared bishop with knight c5, castles. Take, 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 take. I don't really have enough compensation there. I mean, I don't know. It looks like this is playable for black after all. I said it might be a mistake, but I don't see really what I'm supposed to do after e5, knight e4. I don't see a good move. Maybe something subtle I missed here. Queen c2? There's some secret move? I mean, even on queen c2, he could play d5, which looks totally okay. But I guess queen c2 is interesting. That's the problem with not knowing the Ponziani theory. Looks like black should be fine here. First time, one of the first times in my life I ever played the Ponziani. Well, what happened? Great for scalping even stronger players. Main line. Oh, knight d5. e5, knight d5. Aha. More like a c3 Sicilian feel. Maybe I have queen c2 for real there, then d5. Should be okay for black. Well, everything should be okay for black. Queen e2. Ah. Queen e2. Is that an idea? Blocking my bishop on f1? But, right, we have concrete tactics. Taking away his ability to play d5. Ah. So that's the idea. Queen e2. And there's no d5 because of pawn takes pawn. Well, if there is a d5, he's got to be very careful how he's going to sacrifice that. With some f5 or something. He could possibly play like f5. d5, ed, f5. Looks kind of funky. d5, ed, f5 in that line would be my choice. Now it looks like it's going to just fizzle out. Fizzle. Fizzleation. Maybe black's even better because I have this overextension going on with e5. Guys, last game for today. I'll be back next Friday, so wish me luck. I don't think the tournament I'm going to is going to be all that strong, so we might even have a chance to take it down. I'm hoping to be one of the top like 10 players in the field, and wasn't what I expected initially, because this tournament I'm going to had been strong in the past, but there is a conflict with another tournament in Hungary at the same time, so it apparently has attracted a lot of the strong players to go to the other tournament, and leaving this one a little bit weaker. But potentially, maybe I could take it down. We'll just beat everybody and give old Konstantin Chernyshov a draw, and see if that's enough to take it down. I don't like this. This looks like nothing for white. This looks like I'm going to have to be careful not to be worse. Nothingville. It's like an ultra lame Petrov. got to get out of here as fast as possible. Lapinu, I think he could even be better. Black could be slightly better. D5 was a more combative move than taking on D2, I think. This is good enough for equality, but I think he should have considered D5. Because then he's threatening maybe something like bishop G4 in some lines. This is the safe way for black to play. I would offer a draw if this was a tournament game. Please. One time, I remember a tournament where this Hungarian grandmaster, Lukács, it was playing a friend of mine. He was like, please draw. He actually offered. It's kind of funny. That's kind of how I feel here. Like, please draw. Ugh. Interesting. What would Karyakin do? That's probably what we should ask ourselves. We find ourselves in that kind of position where we're basically like minus 1.1. What would Karyakin do, to save this game against Magnus Carlsen? Bishop E4, trying to trade some pieces looks kind of interesting. Bishop E4, Bishop G4. Castles. What do we do? Man, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. If I take on D6, that's lame. Bishop E4 right away. Is that really the move? Maybe. I guess you just have to trust your instinct and play the safest looking move. If I don't do something, I'm going to be like seriously worse here. I offer a draw. Offer a draw. No, this is what I would do in a tournament game. I would offer a draw here. Before it gets totally out of control, I'm going to offer a draw. I think black's slightly better, and I'm afraid of several possibilities, but mostly, I guess bishop G4 looks like the best. Only black can possibly be better here after bishop G4. He'd find a bad move and then defend brilliantly. I already made my bad move somewhere, so now we have to defend brilliantly. Anyway, guys, thanks. It was fun today. I'm not a big fan of the Ponziani, but we have to learn. I think we can equalize with white if we play carefully, although I don't think the bishop... Yeah, maybe bishop E4 almost saves the game. I still prefer black here. Our pawn on E5 is overextended. So, guys, I'm going to be gone for a week. Enjoy the World Championship and its exciting ramifications while I am away in Kharkiv playing chess. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining me. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. I appreciate the support via PayPal. If anybody can just once a year make a small donation to help things keep going, and we can keep it going for next year. So I will see you guys later next Friday after Thanksgiving, the 25th of November. I will be streaming again classical and blitz chess here on lichess. So you got a whole week just to concentrate on Karyakin and Carlsen. Again, we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.